There's a very specific feeling of relief that comes when you look at your savings account and see a solid, unchanging number. It's the feeling of a closed door. You've done the hard part. You traded your stress, your overtime, and your Saturday mornings for that digital balance. And because the world is a volatile, unpredictable place, you've put that money in the safest place, a high street bank. You feel like you've built a fortress. But I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever noticed that even though your balance is growing, your life doesn't actually feel any cheaper? Have you ever walked through the grocery store and realized that the $100 you spent today bought 3 fewer bags of food than it did 3 years ago? It's a quiet, nagging realization. It's the feeling that you are running up a down escalator. You're doing everything the responsible way, yet the finish line seems to be drifting further away. Today, I want to talk about the greatest trick ever played on the middle class. I want to talk about why the safest move you can make, leaving your wealth in a traditional savings account, might actually be the most dangerous risk you are taking with your future. We are raised with a very linear understanding of safety. Our parents and grandparents lived in a world where a savings account was a vault. You put $1 in, and it stayed $1. Maybe it even grew a little. But we are no longer living in that world. We've been taught to fear the red of the stock market, the volatility of assets, and the danger of investing. We look at those things and see a gamble, but we look at a savings account and see a guarantee. And you're right, it is a guarantee. But it's not a guarantee of safety. It's a guarantee of a slow, silent leak. Most of us think of risk as the chance of losing money. We think if the number doesn't go down, we haven't lost anything. But that is the fundamental misunderstanding that keeps people stuck. There is another kind of risk that is much more predatory because it doesn't shout. It's called purchasing power risk. It is the risk that while your number stays the same, the world around that number gets more expensive. It's like owning a beautiful car that stays perfectly polished in your garage, but every year, the road outside gets 10 miles longer. You haven't lost the car, but you've lost the ability to get where you're going. Think about a typical Tuesday afternoon. You're at the gas station, or maybe you're paying the utility bill. You see the price, and you feel that tiny spark of irritation. You blame the economy, or the government, or the corporations. And while those things play a role, the real predator is inflation. Inflation is often explained as prices going up, but that's not quite right. It's more accurate to say that the value of your currency is going down. If you have $50,000 sitting in a standard savings account, earning 0.1% interest, and the cost of living is rising by 4% or 5%, you aren't saving money. You are witnessing a slow-motion robbery. You are losing about $2,000 of life every single year. That's $2,000 of future vacations, or your child's education, or the ability to retire 6 months earlier. It's vanishing while you sleep, all because you chose the safe option. Psychologically, we cling to these accounts because of something called loss aversion. Our brains are wired to feel the pain of a loss twice as strongly as the joy of a gain. If you invest $10,000 and it drops to $9,000 tomorrow, you feel a visceral physical pang of regret. You feel like you failed. But if you leave that $10,000 in a bank account and it loses $1,000 of value over 5 years because of inflation, you don't feel a thing. There's no red light, no notification. The bank still sends you a nice statement with the same number on it. This is why the safe move is so seductive. It shields us from the emotional discomfort of volatility, but it exposes us to the mathematical certainty of erosion. We are trading our long-term freedom for short-term emotional comfort. I want you to imagine a man named David. David is 50. He's worked hard, he's a provider, and he's naturally cautious. He remembers the crashes of the past. He doesn't trust the system, so David keeps every spare cent in a savings account. He sees himself as the protector of his family's future. He thinks he's being the adult in the room. But because David is so afraid of the waves of the ocean, he's decided to keep his boat tied to a rotting pier. He doesn't realize that while the boat isn't rocking, the pier is slowly sinking into the mud. 10 years from now, David will have the exact amount of money he planned to have. But he will find that the world has moved on without him. He will find that the safe path led him to a destination where he can no longer afford the life he spent 30 years working for. Ducky. This is the tragedy of the cautious. Their fear of a temporary dip leads them straight into a permanent decline. The turning point comes when you realize that money is not a trophy to be kept in a case. Money is energy, and like all forms of energy, it either moves or it dissipates. When you keep your money in a traditional savings account, you are effectively freezing your energy. You are telling your hard work to stop working, but the world around you never stops. The cost of labor, the cost of land, the cost of innovation, it all keeps moving. To keep pace, your money has to move too. It has to be tied to things that grow. It has to be tied to the productivity of the world. This is the fundamental shift from a saver mindset to an investor mindset. A saver believes that wealth is a pile of coins. An investor understands that wealth is a share of the future. Now, I'm not saying you should take your life savings and throw them at a trending stock or a speculative gamble. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a calm, calculated repositioning. It starts with recognizing that cash is a tool, not a destination. You need cash for your emergency fund. That's your safety net for the car repairs and the random Tuesdays we talked about before. But anything beyond that net is no longer protecting you. It's penalizing you. The real safety in 2026 isn't found in a bank balance. It's found in diversified ownership. It's owning a tiny piece of the 500 largest companies in the world, or owning real estate, or owning assets that have to increase in value as the currency decreases. When you own things, inflation becomes your wind, not your anchor. As prices go up, the value of what you own goes up with them. You are no longer fighting the physics of the economy. You are finally using them. I know this feels intimidating. The financial industry loves to make this sound like a complex labyrinth that only people in suits can navigate. They want you to feel small, so you'll keep your money in their accounts where they can use it to build their wealth while giving you back pennies. But the math is actually quite simple. If you can find a way to make your money grow at a rate that is even 1% higher than inflation, you have won. You have stopped the leak. You have started the process of buying back your time. Every dollar that grows for you is an hour of work you don't have to do in the future. So, how do you practically start without losing sleep? And you start by reframing what you see when you look at your bank app. Don't see a fortress, see a transit station. No, some of that money needs to stay there for your immediate security, your 3 to 6 months of expenses. But the rest is a workforce that is currently sitting in the break room doing nothing. Your job is to give them an assignment. Start small, move a portion into a low-cost index fund. Don't look at it every day. Don't worry about the red days. Remind yourself that the red is just a temporary wave, but the savings account is a permanent sinkhole. You are playing a 20-year game, not a 20-minute one. Progress in this phase doesn't look like a sudden windfall. It looks like a quiet, boring consistency. It's the decision to put your money where it can breathe and grow, even when your lizard brain is screaming at you to keep it safe. True safety doesn't come from a lack of movement. True safety comes from being in the right position. It comes from knowing that your future self won't have to pay the price for your current self's fear. If you're feeling anxious about this, take a breath. It's okay to be cautious. It means you value the work you've put in. But don't let that value be eroded by a false sense of security. You've worked too hard for your money to let it sit there and lose its strength. You deserve a future where your savings actually mean something. Remember, the goal isn't to be rich tomorrow. The goal is to be free, eventually. And freedom requires us to look the truth in the eye. The safe move is a risk. The risky move, when done with patience and wisdom, is actually the only way to stay safe. You aren't failing because the world is getting more expensive. You're just learning the new rules of the game. And once you know the rules, you can finally stop running up the down escalator. You can step off, catch your breath, and start building a life that actually stays built. Progress is a slow curve, not a straight line. And the best time to start that curve is today. You're smarter than the systems that want to keep you stuck. and you're more capable than your anxiety tells you. Just keep moving. The view from the top is worth the climb.